Hey there, Nation. Welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and on today's episode of Cheap Shots, we are talking about primers. So the last time we talked about the cheap shots, we were looking at my Death Watch army that I have for Warhammer 40,000. We talked about how you can go about basing those miniatures quite cheaply using sand and wood glue. So today we're going to go the next step of prepping up our miniatures to paint, and the way we're going to do that is with spray paint. Is what we're going to do. We're going to prime these things. Now, traditionally speaking, when it comes to priming your miniatures, why do you do it? The reason why you do it is because these miniatures are actually made out of plastic, is what they are. And unfortunately, because when you try to paint with acrylics, they tend to slip off. They don't really stick too well to the miniature. They have a really bad way of chipping off sometimes. So what you do is you need to spray a primer onto your miniatures in order to make sure that there's something for the paint to stick to, an adhesive, if you will. It gives it texture so that way the paint has something to grip onto and maintain balance on. Now, when you look at primers, if you're a first-time wargamer and you're trying to figure out what kind of primers you can use, some of these primers tend to get a little expensive. For example, Games Workshop, I think they're called Chaos Black and Clorox White Spray. I mean, those things cost like $15. Some of the Army Painter stuff costs even more. Vallejo, if you decide to use airbrushing in order to do your priming, it could even run up even higher costs if you decide to buy an airbrush and stuff. So let's talk about the cheap way that I do it. And pretty much I basically just use this stuff here. Color Place, it's just a flat spray paint. Any flat spray paint will do. This stuff comes from Walmart. It costs like 98 cents a can. So that's what I use. And determining on what kind of paint job I'm going to do on my miniatures determines what kind of color primer I use. Usually there's three main colors that you mainly use to prime your miniatures. You have white, black, and then right in the middle, gray. And the reason why is because they kind of do different things for your miniatures. For example, if you plan on painting your miniatures in bright, vibrant colors, usually you want to stick with the white primer because it helps the the white to kind of show through the base coat, so that way it keeps it bright. Whereas if you want to paint more dark armies, or you're going for a really dark color scheme, you use black in order to do that as well. And then the gray, the reason why people use gray too is because gray is a nice medium undertone. It doesn't really either give you a lot of bright or shadows. You could also use it to like see details a little bit easier because it's easier on the eyes to adjust while you're painting the miniature. And really, it just comes down to personal preference, really. If you're looking at videos where they talk about, what they call basically putting undertones or undershades, you'll see it sometimes where they take like a miniature, for example, and they'll spray certain parts of it a darker base coat as opposed to lighter because they want to do a lighting effect. That's where you start getting to your more advanced levels of painting. And if you're wondering, if the primer really makes a difference on your miniatures, not really. It's not really so much the primer you use that makes a difference. It's the method of how you would go about doing it. For example, if you're looking for like a real professional standard, you wouldn't use this. All right, this is like more for like an intermittent, like a tabletop standard. Like you're just trying to paint your armies up, just to make them look pretty decent on the battlefield. If you wanted to go more of a professional level of painting, or painting competition, you'd probably better off using an airbrush because you have more control. You can be more precise. So how you base coat your miniatures, make sure you get everything you need to in order to, do a pretty good job on that part as well. And as you can see, a lot of these miniatures are really, really fine in detail. So you want to make sure you don't spray too much. An airbrush can help you with that, so that way you don't clog up the details that way either. But if you're just looking for a real basic coat, just because you're just looking to get it painted, flat spray paint you really can't go wrong with, in my opinion. So in this case, with this armor right here, because these guys are Death Watch and the primarily color they use for the armor is black, I'm going to be going with a black spray paint on this one. A couple things you might need, really, is just your cans of spray paint, really, and an area to spray paint at is all you really need. If you want to get a little bit more technical with it, you can get some cheap latex gloves to protect your hands because spray paint does stick on your skin, and it could be kind of annoying if it gets on your hands. Maybe if you're spray painting a lot of miniatures, you might want to get yourself a spray grip trigger for a spray can. Looks like that presses the head on the spray can, so that way it takes a little bit easier on your fingers, so that way you're not constantly, doing all the time. And of course, well, that's all you really need to do in order to spray paint your rig. So let's go and talk about exactly how you go about getting these things ready to prime. Okay, so we're back, and this is just an example of like a little rig that you can quickly put together real fast if you want to spray paint something like in your garage or something. Like, for example, let's say like space is an issue, or you don't want the back spray from your spray paint to affect things. You can do something like this, like I have here. I just have a regular beer case box that I just picked up somewhere, and as you can see here, I just put my miniatures right on the bottom here, and I just hit them with some spray paint so that if any paint spillover hits the back, it doesn't really go anywhere, and it's all self-contained. Another way you could do it too, if you have a nice big open space like a big backyard, backyard, you could put these miniatures up on a stand of some sort that you can rig up and spray paint them over in your lawn. You don't have to worry about any of the back spray getting anywhere. That's really up to you how you want to get it done. The thing that you want to make sure though is that you don't want to overspray and clog up the details. What you want to do, you want to keep your spray at least about 6 inches away, so that way you don't clog up all the details. At the same time, have enough paint to like adhere to your surface, and that's all you really need to do on this part. So what's going to happen is I'm going to pause this video real quick. I'm going to start priming some of my miniatures, that way you get an idea what they look like. Okay, and here we are. We're back inside the studio now. We just got done spray painting these miniatures in flat black spray paint from Color Place. Just a real cheap flat black spray paint is all it is. As you can see, we have a really good job on top of the undercoat for this. So all we gotta do now is start painting these guys up, and then we'll be ready to go. So yeah, pretty simple video. Another easy, quick tip for you guys to save money on your hobbies. For those of you guys who are just starting out, just want to look for a real basic primer to use on your miniatures. As you can see right back here, I have my dwarves done in white. We talked about earlier when I did my X Grant episode number 2. So yeah, pretty straightforward, you guys. Pretty simple. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this one. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always appreciated. Also, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Google+, as well as Blogger for all the latest and greatest about our hobby news. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.